Welcome to Habeas Treacherous, where I try to decipher this book, There's Treasure Inside by Jon Collins-Black, in order to find one of the 5 hidden treasures. On today's episode, I'll continue my breakdown of The Lion's Share Box and discuss where the Hercules and the Antiquities of Alexander chapter could be taking us. Let's begin! The Antiquities of Alexander chapter is interesting to me because it's one of the few chapters that doesn't begin with a picture of a treasure item. Instead, it shows an image of the Apotheosis of Hercules, which is a fresco on the ceiling of the Hercules drawing room in the Palace of Versailles. It depicts Hercules ascending up to Mount Olympus after his death. The only other chapters not to feature a treasure item on the first page are chapter 3, which shows a Japanese puzzle box, and chapters 11 and 12, which show the picture of the ship at sea and the Wild West saloon, respectively. This makes it pretty likely, in my opinion, that there's a clue hidden somewhere in the photograph of the Apotheosis of Hercules. Now, I have a theory about how to find clues in the images of the book. It's actually pretty simple. Basically, I believe that if JCB has left a clue in an image, then he's going to use the text in the chapter to tell us where to look for it. Unfortunately, there are only a couple of paragraphs in chapter 21 where Hercules is mentioned. So in my opinion, it's likely that somewhere in those paragraphs is an indication of where to look for the clue. Now, it's also possible that JCB could tell us where to look for a clue by changing something about the Apotheosis of Hercules image in the book. And since JCB isn't known to be a professional artist himself, my guess is whatever he would have changed would be something fairly easy to do. And when I compare the image in the book with the official images found online, 2 things stick out that are different, and both are relatively easy to pull off. One is it appears that some online images show that the book image has been mirrored. Hercules is facing in the opposite direction. The second is that an area of the treasure book image seems to have been artificially darkened. This makes it harder to see the characters in that part of the image, specifically where these cherubs are shown carrying Hercules' shield above their heads. Now, could this be why JCB writes, wearing a club of Hercules like the one shown on our necklace would bestow to you powers of protection, this shielding extended especially to children? I mean, it does seem to be a pretty interesting coincidence. The darkened part of the Apotheosis of Hercules showing 2 children with a shield over their heads and the line, this shielding extended especially to children. If JCB wanted to direct us to a clue in the image, this seems to be a good way to do it. But I know what you must be thinking. Yo, HT, it's a cool connection, but what could it mean? Great question. I think JCB might be pointing us towards an organization that helps protect children, and here's why. Right before JCB begins telling the story about Hercules in the book, he includes a paragraph about how snakes were perceived in Cleopatra's kingdom, aka Egypt, to have healing powers. He finishes this paragraph with this line: the Greek god of healing called Asclepios carried a rod with him. Around his rod coiled a snake. This rod with its snake is used today as the symbol of the American Medical Association. Then JCB immediately launches into the tale of Hercules, starting with this line. In another famous Greek myth, Zeus had an affair with a human woman. Their newborn son was named Hercules. In my opinion, this is one of the more abrupt transitions in the treasure book. It feels to me like JCB really wanted to make sure that the Hercules portion of the chapter came immediately after the American Medical Association line. I think this is because the Hercules clue is designed to point us towards a children's hospital. But which one? Well, I think it's St. Jude's Children's Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, and here's why. St. Jude's was founded in 1962 by entertainer Danny Thomas. Apparently, when he was first starting out, Danny Thomas vowed to build a hospital if he ever became successful after praying to St. Jude Thaddeus, who is the patron saint of hopeless causes. The hospital is set up as a research hospital where children are treated at no cost to their parents. It's a wonderful organization that I think fits well with the chapter for a couple of reasons. The first is the line in the chapter that reads, the gods forced Hercules to complete 12 mission impossibles. The types of childhood illnesses that St. Jude's Hospital researches and treats are truly the most difficult cases, so that fits. And St. Jude Thaddeus was one of the 12 original apostles of Jesus, so the number 12 fits as well. Also, I discovered in my research that just like Hercules' symbol is his club, so is St. Jude's. Apparently, if you become a saint through martyrdom in the Catholic Church, then whatever killed you often becomes your symbol for all eternity. And since St. Jude was beaten to death with a club, that is now his symbol. So this also fits with the Hercules necklace in the chapter that features a club. And finally, remember how JCB mentions that the Egyptians believed snakes had healing powers, and that's why the American Medical Association uses snakes as part of their symbol? Well, St. Jude's Children's Hospital is based in Memphis, Tennessee, and Memphis got its name from a famous city in Egypt called, get this, Memphis. But this isn't the only picture clue that I think is hidden in the Apotheosis of Hercules. I think there's a reference to the painting at the beginning of the chapter 2. Here, let's read the opening paragraph of chapter 21. My children are constantly trying to understand the world around them. Why do bees sting? Where will daddy go when he dies? Why can't I eat the cat food? My kids are walking, talking bundles of curiosity. They want to know how everything works, why everything is, and all of the rules. Adults are similar, we just tend not to say it out loud so much. In my mind, the line that matches up with the Apotheosis of Hercules is, where will daddy go when he dies? The painting is showing Hercules ascending to Mount Olympus after he dies, so this could be why JCB chooses this wording to start off the chapter, basically trying to draw our attention back to some part of the picture. And remember how earlier I mentioned that St. Jude's Children's Hospital was founded by the entertainer Danny Thomas? Well, Danny Thomas became famous through his TV show from the 1950s called Make Room for Daddy. It was a huge hit. I think it's possible that the where will daddy go when he dies is another clue pointing to St. Jude's in Memphis, since that is where Danny Thomas, aka the actor who played Daddy on Make Room for Daddy, is buried. That's right. Daddy Danny Thomas's grave is actually on the grounds of St. Jude's Children's Hospital in Memphis. But that's not all. Let's look again at the Hercules painting because I think it might also hold the answers to the other questions that JCB asks about the bees and the cat food. Notice how there's a figure pictured wearing a red robe at the edge of the darkened area near where the two cherubs are holding up the shield. This figure is the god of war, Mars, who is often depicted in Roman mythology wearing the color red. But I know what you must be thinking. Yo, HT, there are a bunch of gods and goddesses pictured in the fresco. Why are you so sure Mars is the clue? Great question. Well, for one thing, Mars is the name of a large pet food company, Mars Pet Care. This could explain why JCB includes the line, why can't I eat the cat food? And second, the name of the Mars rover that's been exploring the surface of the planet since 2012 is Curiosity. The mission of the rover fits really well with the rest of the paragraph about his kids trying to figure out how everything works and why everything is. Oh, and Mars Pet Care is headquartered in Tennessee, so it shares the same home state as St. Jude's Hospital. So if JCB wanted to use the Apotheosis of Hercules to connect to Tennessee, then creating clues to both Mars and St. Jude's works. But I think there's more evidence that Mars and St. Jude's are the key takeaways. Remember how JCB released a cryptic letter at the recent Treasure Hunter convention in Arizona? He couldn't attend the convention in person, so he sent a letter that Jenny Kyle from Mysterious Writings read on stage. Here's a copy of the letter. In it, JCB outlines 3 characteristics that he believes treasure hunters will need to have to find the treasure. They are perseverance, inspiration, and gratitude. What's interesting is, remember how I mentioned earlier that Curiosity is the name of the first Mars rover? Well, the name of the second Mars rover is Perseverance. That was launched into space on July 30th, 2020. So it's been exploring for the past 6 years. Now, with this context, let's review JCB's recent letter, specifically the paragraph about perseverance. It reads, I challenge you to persevere. Perseverance will be one of the biggest challenges for some of you because you were born with a blessing. You burn hot. You have passion. You remember the thrill of discovering the unknown as if you were still 6 years old because that feeling of wonder never left you. Let's stop here. The line, discovering the unknown as if you were still 6 years old, definitely lines up with the 6-year-old Perseverance Mars rover's mission. The passion and burning hot also align with the symbolic nature of a god of war like Mars. So I think it's possible that the mention of Curiosity in chapter 21 and the focus on perseverance in JCB's letter are designed to draw attention to the names of the 2 Mars rovers. But what about inspiration? Well, on a hunch, I decided to see if there was an outer space connection to the word inspiration. And it turns out that in 2021, the Inspiration 4 was a space flight that sent 4 civilians on a trip around the Earth. The mission was documented in real time in a 5-episode docuseries entitled Countdown Inspiration 4 Mission to Space, released on Netflix. The leader of the spaceflight was Shift4 Payment CEO Jared Isaacman, hence the name Inspiration 4, and why I also think JCB starts out this part of his letter first and foremost. The cool part of this mission, and why I think it's a possible treasure clue, is that it raised over $200 million to support, get this, St. Jude's Children's Hospital, making it the largest fundraiser in St. Jude's history. And one of the 4 civilians chosen to go on the mission was herself a St. Jude's Children's Hospital cancer survivor. Anyway, that's all I've got for today's video. I hope you found it interesting, and in the words of top 40 treasure hunter Casey Kasem, keep your boots on the ground and keep reaching for those stars.